It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantatrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine. Indeed, we're back once again with your weekly recap of everything Star Wars and Lucasfilm. I'm your host, Brian Cameron, and with me, my partner in crime, Mr. Paul Naylor.
And it is criminal, let's be honest.
It is often criminal. Let's just be honest, there it is. We've got no snow. Do we need to get some snow going? Let's get some snow going. Yeah, it's Christmas. So that makes you feel more Christmassy. There we go. There's an elf. A snowball.
Oh, we got no lights this week. We need the lights around the screen.
We need some lights. Next time. Yeah, we'll save that for next week. Should we talk some Star Wars?
Yeah, let's see what we've got.
Let's see what's on the show tonight. So, Paul, first up.
That's yourself.
Is it? Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, we're going slick and smooth straight from the off. James Mangold's been talking Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny. A little bit critical of the audience and maybe not taking some of the responsibility to himself. We'll discuss that in a little bit.
Diego Luna will be heading over to Japan. So anybody that's going over to Celebration, that's your opportunity to meet the guy from Rogue One and Andor.
Generally, Alan White is joining the cast of The Mandalorian Grogu, or to be fair, he joined the cast because it's now finished filming. So we're finding out the news late, but we've got the news anyway.
Unless he's in post-production, which I very much doubt. The Lucas Museum is coming on a treat, and we were discussing this recently, Brian. We can't wait for this to open. There's no date as yet, but we can't wait to report from there.
We've got some new drone footage we'll show you in a little bit.
Yeah.
Jabba's Court this week. Warwick Davis made a comment that it's a travesty that the Willow TV series has been removed from Disney Plus. We'll be debating that.
We certainly will. Farthest from, which happened last weekend, we've got some reports that were made there, and there were some significant showings, some exclusive showings from Steve Evans from Hasbro. So that's worth watching, and we'll be giving you a link to that.
Brilliant. Gift of Galaxy continues, and it's become something of the Hasbro show because it's Hasbro again this week, and with 2 new product releases. We'll be checking them out, coming from both the Vintage and the Black Series.
And they're both very, very nice. Jude Law, as we mentioned previously, he has finally got his star on the Hall of Fame over at Hollywood. Sorry, the Walk of Fame, we'll be reporting on that.
Skeleton Crew news. The showrunners have been talking about the potential of a second series. Certainly getting great critical response. Not sure yet whether it's getting the viewer numbers. We'll find out shortly. But they discuss how they would handle a season 2. And so, obviously, Skeleton Crew's on air at the moment, and we'll be discussing episode 3 in our segment Bon Voyage.
Which I still think is the best title you've come up with. Bon Voyage. Genius stuff.
In the chat there, Jonathan Tyson. Hello, guys. Hope you're well. Couldn't join you last week, so I was very well with the nasty cold. Better now. Good to have you back. Let us know your thoughts on the news as we talk through them. And here as well, Mr. Mark Newbold, as always, hanging out in the comments. Give him some
There
stick,
he
people.
is.
And Chris David there, hello to you as well. Anyone with any thoughts and opinions of what we're discussing, shout them out in the comments on whatever platform you're watching us on, and we'll try and include them in the show and let us know our thoughts of what you've got to say as well. So should we crack on
Yes.
with the news? So first up, James Mangold has been talking Dial of Destiny as he promotes his latest offerings, and he talked about what kind of film he was trying to make, and he was trying to make a joyous film, as he described it, about a brilliant actor, a character in Harrison Ford and in Indiana Jones, excuse me, and the character being in their 80s and trying to accommodate that in the writing of it, and that not really connecting with audiences. And he kind of, and was a little bit critical of the audience, and to accept that Indiana Jones was now an old man kind of thing, and maybe criticised the audience a little bit for not accepting that. And I don't know what your thoughts about that,
I
Paul,
enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the film. I thought it was really good. The de-aged sequence at the start was brilliant, but even the latter day Indiana Jones, which was around, I think it was meant to be set around 69, 70, something like that. And I think that Harrison was playing a character probably 10 years younger than his real age. So he was probably meant to be around 70. He was still a lecturer and looking to end his time at doing his lecturing. But yeah, I thought it was a strong film. What did you think?
I enjoyed the film, but if you can have a de-aged Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones at the start of the film in a high impact action sequence, and then completely change that to like an aged, old, weathered Indiana Jones by the end of it, you're going to have fans want more of what you gave us at the start of the film.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you gave the fans the reason in the film to be regretful that Harrison is that age now and not 20 years younger, where he could still pull off being the all-action hero that Indiana Jones was when we were kids.
I think Indiana Jones as a franchise, whilst it's got a strong following, it's got a strong fan base, it's nothing anywhere close to what the fan base for Star Wars is.
No.
So I think that people would make the decision to either go and watch it or not on a film by film basis, rather than looking at an overall saga like we have with Star Wars.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those that didn't go probably don't think that they were missing out on anything. Did it get good and bad, or good or bad reviews at the time? I can't remember whether it was critically panned or not. Can't recall.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, as Mr. Newbold says, the cinema-going audience did indie bad last year. They probably did. It probably didn't get the audience it deserved. But it kind of left you feeling it's the kind of thing that I'll wait till it's out on a streaming service and I'll check out then. It's hard. It's a hard sell to want someone to go and see an old action hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the problem that the Indiana Jones franchise has, is you cannot separate Indiana Jones from Harrison Ford. As much as you've had that young indie series and you've had 3 or 4 actors play Indiana Jones at various points in his life.
Yeah.
The two come hand in hand, and you'll never be able to do an Indiana Jones film with another actor in that role.
Did you manage to get hold of a copy of the game that you were waiting for?
Oh, Paul, don't ask. I have it on order now from Amazon. I have my refund received from Game. So I'm now waiting for Amazon to deliver, who promised me it'll be very soon. And that's all this day. Yes. So my 3-day early access might get it within the next 3 weeks and have 3 weeks late access. You know? It's a sore point. Much
Ooh,
like clearly the success of Dial of Destiny is a sore point to James Mangold.
yeah.
The 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 Great Circle game has become a bit of a sore point in my household.
Oh dear.
Let's talk about something we can look forward to, though. Let's talk about
Okay.
Star Wars Celebration in Japan next year, Paul.
Yeah, so Diego Luna has been confirmed as being a guest at Celebration Japan in 2025. Um, I think we probably all thought that this would be an obvious choice, bearing in mind Andor will be released around that time. I would imagine that people that go to Japan will probably get to see maybe an episode or a couple of episodes whilst there.
I hope
Um,
so, because I'm traveling home whilst it's on air.
You'll definitely get to see something. And I believe Alan Tudyk's been confirmed to be there as well. So it will be a fantastic photo opportunity for fans. But yeah, I've not met him yet. I know Mark's met him. He met him at the premiere for Rogue One, I think. But have you met Diego at all, Brian?
No, I stay away from actors. They're strange people.
It's not just droids.
It's not just Troys. Troys and actors.
It's anything
Yeah,
that talks.
yeah. Anything pretending to be something they're not. No, I've not
Oh.
met Diego. I've met Felicity Jones, who clearly won't be in the Andor TV series. But
Or will she? Or will
well,
she?
I don't think so. They
I,
weren't
I don't
familiar
know.
with each other, so it would be a
Oh,
strange cameo. Uh,
yeah. I've got my thoughts on that because there's been a lot of sort of talk about Felicity, which we spoke about in the previous show. I've got a feeling that talk is there for a reason. Maybe she appears with Saw Gerrera at some point. She
yeah,
won't. She won't.
you may see a young
Yeah.
version of the character, I guess. Probably it couldn't be that much younger.
Well, this is it. By the time we get to the final run of three shows in Andor season two, it's pretty close to Rogue One anyway. And I suspect she hasn't altered that much in the last 10 or so years. So yeah, perhaps they've managed to sort of iron out a few creases and get her involved in it. Who knows?
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so that's something for fans to look forward to. The promise of Andor 2's content at Celebration Japan.
yeah, and look out for some announcements from Father Drax early in the new year as to our plans for celebration as well. Hope to see a lot of you guys out there. Chris making a comment he'd like to see Guy Hendry as Tarkin, but don't think we'll get. I don't think we will either. I think this court case might have just be enough to make them not want to rattle that can at the moment until that's resolved. But it depends how brave and how confident Lucasfilm are in winning that case. Um, Jonathan had hoped to meet Alan Tudyk. He cancelled for the Love of Horror back in October, but he's hoping to be rescheduled for a UK convention soon. And Mark suggesting you could see how Jen ended up in the Wobani
That's what I
prison.
think. Yeah, I think that's what will happen. Yeah.
She probably stole the wages off the Imperials, much like Diego Luna did. Thieving,
Those
thieving,
hard-working
thieving
Imperials.
terrorists. Hard-earned work. Poor civil servants did. NHS workers, wages taken. Anyway, talking about another project that's actually finished filming now. Dave Filoni confirmed last week that they've wrapped filming. So as much as we say that Jeremy Allen White is joining the cast of the Mandalorian Grogu, he probably has recorded anything that he's done. Although he's supposed to be playing a Rotta the Hutt, so he's providing a voice. So I guess technically that may still be something that's in the works, but we'll
Yeah,
wait and see.
it could be post-production, but yeah, that's an interesting casting choice. I can only imagine he'll be putting on some sort of affected voice for that.
Yeah.
There'd be no point in having a known voice actor if they're not going to use something other than Huttese. So I'm guessing, much like Zero, the Hutt, one of certainly my son's favourites from from the Clone Wars era, who spoke in a very sort of eloquent well, gangsterish voice. I think that's probably what we'll get from Jeremy. But yeah, we're going to get leaked bits and bobs from this as time goes by.
Yeah.
What was the date that this is due to come out?
It's due May 2026, I
I
think.
think that
Yep.
sounds right to me. Yeah, that sounds right. So we've got plenty of time to wait on this one. So I've got a feeling there's going to be some TV shows along the way, potentially, that will have some impact on the lead into this story.
I
So
do like the idea of bringing the Hutts back. I know we had them in
yeah,
the Book of Boba Fett, but obviously we don't have that in Blu-ray, so we can't confirm the rumours. But I think, there's a few things that Lucasfilm have got wrong when they've carried on the Star Wars franchises. Is building up enemies. If you're going to have multiple TV shows and multiple films, you've got to build up characters to be the big evils. The Hutt
yeah,
cartel seem like a huge missed opportunity.
yeah,
You've got Darth Maul and all his cronies. Another missed opportunity from Solo that could really have been built up.
yeah,
The Imperial remnants, we've seen some of that in The Mandalorian, and that could really have been built up more. So you could have, and we've got the pirates, I guess, in Skeleton Crew. You could really build them up as a group, and really build up a number of enemies that you could keep going back to find who's the latest leader, who's the one on top in that group, and constantly recycle your enemies. Mark's just chiming in there with the date, 22nd of May 2026.
yeah. I think the thing is with like you were talking about there, Brian, the pirates. That's the Disney era version of Star Wars. That's the equivalent to the bounty hunters from
Yeah.
the 80s.
It was actually a George Lucas concept that he pitched for his version of Episode 7.
Yeah.
Was a pirate base.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
That's
well,
the origins of that one.
yeah,
Jonathan making a comment here that he's hoping it's going to be a decent movie. It needs to get off to a good start. I agree. I think all the goodwill for the Mandalorian and Grogu is kind of wiped away a little bit with how season 3 ended. They almost need to start afresh a little bit. There's a hope, I think, amongst most people that these characters have got something good to offer,
yeah.
but they're not going to get much in the way of the opportunity to get it wrong again.
Season 3 was patchy at best.
Yeah.
Seasons 1 and 2 of The
Jack
Mandalorian,
Black.
some of the best Star Wars we had was season 1 and 2. Season 3, yeah. And I hate the title of the film, Mandalorian and Grogu. It's a bit of a poor title. I'd have hoped for something.
All I'm hoping is that we don't get any announcements of Lady Gaga or Chris Rock or any other comedians or singers that are in the film. Let's just make a film. Why do you need cameos in Star Wars? Star Wars doesn't need a cameo of the week to get press.
No. We don't need Jack Black and we don't need Lizzo. Please, no.
So yeah, it's. I think the goodwill's at its limit on this. It needs a very strong trailer that makes people think, yeah, we're back to the original Mandalorian that we kind of loved.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have my fears as to Grogu playing him as just a cutesy pie kind of character, but well, we'll wait and see. Something I'm more optimistic on, Paul.
Sorry?
Something I'm more optimistic about.
Yes, this is definitely something that I'm looking forward to. I'm pretty sure you are too, Brian. This will probably be my one of my future trips to the States. Will be to go along and see the Lucas Museum, which we've got some footage, some drone footage of where it's at this point in time. And I think that there's going to be all sorts of reasons to go to this.
Yeah.
Maybe not as Star Warsy as perhaps many would think.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll show a little bit of this clip. You can find the link in our article on the site and in the show notes. And that's kind of how it's looking at the moment. And apart from needing George needs to go out and give the grass a cut, it's looking all right. It's looking pretty developed. And I think I'll end it there because I don't want to steal the credit for the guy that's gone all the hard work of doing this drone footage, but it's due for completion 2025, and it's looking pretty far on.
Yeah, yeah. It's a stunning building. I mean, what they've tried to achieve on the rooftop alone makes it stand out. But the size of it, the scale of that place, it is huge. Um, but we were having a chat earlier, Brian, and we're led to believe that it won't perhaps have as much Star Wars content as many would be thinking.
Yeah, it definitely would. It needs to be clear that it's not a Star Wars museum. It is Lucas's collection of art, which is hugely extensive, and a huge cross of art across generations and across mediums. So don't expect to go in it to be a wall-to-wall Star Wars exhibition. And George himself only has a fraction of Star Wars related props and items. Most of it still owned by Lucasfilm, and there's not going to be too much of a crossover between what Lucasfilm have in their archives and what's in the Lucas Museum, I think. So yeah, I wouldn't go expecting to see a building that size full of Star Wars. I think you're going to get a journey through the whole history of cinema as well. And a lot of different interesting things. I think if you go there with open eyes, I think you could really enjoy it.
Yeah. What concerns me is that when people start getting like press invites to go and review it and sort of big it up, that they are going to be, because they're not going to be going knowing what it's actually about, they're going to come away from it disappointed, and therefore their reviews are going to be negative.
Yep.
So I think it's a lot of it's down to Lucas Museum and their PR company to make sure that people know what it is exactly about.
Yeah.
Before the general public starts shelling out probably quite a bit of money to go and see something that may not be what they think it's going to be.
Yeah. Jonathan there was asking in the comments, where is it? It's Exposition Park in Los Angeles. So yeah, something that should be happening this year. And I imagine as soon as they've got an inkling as to when it's going to be open, they will start promoting it very heavily. So expect to see maybe our first look inside some point very soon.
Yeah, can't wait for that one.
At this point, Paul, it's time to go to Jabba's Court. We're going to be talking Disney Plus and the Willow TV series.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Oh dear, indeed. Let's go.
Yes.
Welcome to Jabba's Court. This week we're talking about Disney Plus and some comments that Warwick Davis made about the removal of the Willow TV series. He called its removal a travesty, and that Disney Plus are putting shareholders before subscribers. Paul, let's have a look at exactly what Warwick put out in his
Found
tweet.
something?
Yeah, it's only fair to show what you actually said. So in this tweet, he mentioned that the image came up in his as a photo memory. It was a behind-the-scenes shot from the Willow series. Smiley face. So he's obviously proud of the Willow series. Then he makes a comment: "It's a travesty that Disney Plus values shareholders over subscribers in their creative decision making." Hashtag just saying. Then he says, "I only ever saw each episode once." Now, the last sentence to me sums up why it's no longer on Disney Plus, because even Warwick Davis only saw each episode once. It became a difficult watch. I enjoyed it. It was my kind of cup of tea for sort of fantasy. I thought some of the acting was great from some of the young cast.
Yeah.
Disappointed. I didn't think Warwick's acting was great. It looked like he wasn't having the best of times on the set, which was a shame. it didn't connect with fans. It didn't find an audience. It struggled to get press coverage even, and it was up against the first season of The Rings of Power on Amazon and up against the first season of House of Dragons on HBO. So in terms of a year for releasing fantasy adventures, it was up against two huge giants with huge budgets. And so it didn't surprise me that it didn't get continued beyond our first season. Your
Yeah.
thoughts on this, on the series itself?
Yeah, so I must confess, I only saw the first two episodes. By that time, I was sort of really, and I was going to wait until it had all aired before I went back to watch it. But I think pretty much by the time I was ready to watch it, it had been mothballed. Um, I think the onus here really is on Disney, because Warwick clearly wasn't in a good shape at the time.
Yeah.
His acting ability is a lot stronger than that.
Yeah.
Even the thing he did for Comic Relief with Terry Wogan, which I believe was Terry Wogan's last ever thing, was Oscar compared to this, Oscar nominated stuff compared to that. I think that the other problem with it was that Willow, the original Willow movie, that really, Mad Mardigan was probably the big draw for that. Val Kilmer in that film was brilliant. He was Han Solo. He was the wisecracking sort of rough and ready action hero in that. And with Val Kilmer, obviously in very poor health, there was no way was that going to be an option. And it's almost a case of life imitating art as to what's happened with this, because I don't know if you watched the comedy series that Warwick Davis did, Life's Too Short,
Yeah.
which his acting in that was brilliant, which is basically a parody of his real life. It was all centered around trying to get Willow 2 made, which eventually became Willow the TV series. But it kind of just it all turned sour. Annabelle, his daughter, the episode 2, I think I saw her in. She was really good, really, really good. But then as soon as Warwick came along, it just didn't look up to it. The only other thing that I would say is big fan of the quiz show Tenable.
Yeah.
Now, when Warwick was first hosting that, he was very different in later episodes when clearly he's struggling with his health. Very stilted and very much the same sort of performance as he gave in Willow. So either they needed to wait for Warwick to recover so that he could put in a better performance, or make the choice to go with what they'd got, which is the choice they made. So really, it's their doing, not Warwick's.
Yeah. It was also a COVID project. It's worthwhile remembering as well. So.
Yeah.
Mr. Newbuild making a comment. I can see why he was annoyed. A lot of work, and he can't even watch it. That's the best criticism, I think, is the fact that people want to see the content that's been made, regardless of whether it's good, bad, and different. Jonathan also adding that he's met Warwick Davis, had never seen the original film or the series, to be honest. He thinks of more as a Star Wars actor, Harry Potter, 10th Kingdom, many other things.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that like people, Willow's kind of one of these cult films, but with a very small audience. And so it didn't have that natural, I'm excited to see the Willow TV series. And it really was poorly marketed, I think.
Very, very poorly marketed. Yeah.
The one thing that I hold issue with is the criticism of Disney Plus for as he described it, creative decision making. It's not a creative decision that's not on the service anymore. The creative decisions are as to what do you make and what characters do you focus on, and so on. When it comes to whether it gets a second series or a spin-off or further movies or anything, those are business decisions, and it's got nothing to do with creativity. You could have the greatest idea ever for a second series, but if it's going to cost a lot of money and it's not going to have an audience that generates an income, no business is in their right mind would make it. And you've got, as an accountant, I understand the reason with why it's removed off the service, and it's because you have a very short window to acknowledge that the TV series has been a failure. And so you remove it from the service, you can then claim all your costs associated with it as pretty much as a loss in that first year. If you leave it on the series, you've got to amortize that loss over the next 20, 25 years. So you've got to suffer the fact that it's been unsuccessful for that period of time, where you can just take the hit now, and instead of paying out profits that on something that's been a failure, you no longer have to worry about it. And the only way you can prove that it's been a complete failure is to acknowledge it, that people don't want to see it, and so I'm removing it from a service and it's going up on a shelf, never to be seen again. And that's the only way to deal with it.
I think there's an element where they're hoping that people forget that it was ever made.
Yeah, and that's not a creative decision making. That's a business decision. And if you're a director of Disney, your first responsibility is to maximize shareholder value. That's your legal responsibility. And so that's what they're doing. They're making the correct business decision.
Yeah.
And so
It is a
I'd find criticism, and they always use it, oh, it's a creative decision-making process. The people in the boardroom at Disney are not making creative decisions. They're making business decisions.
Yeah. But surely there should have been some sort of business decision made when it was being filmed. People would have seen behind the scenes. They would have known that that wasn't Warwick's best performance, and they would have been questioning the quality of the acting. And really, I know they've got they've got schedules they've got to keep, but really, I mean that was just awful, and it was an accident waiting to happen.
Big Kev there chiming in. Thought I just hated droids. I actually enjoyed the Willow TV series for what it was, and I sang its praises whilst it was on air. But it's not a travesty it's been removed because it failed, and you've got to take adult decisions as a business, and that's what Disney have done. You might not like it, but why would you leave it up on the service when it's going to financially cost you more and more money?
I'm now getting to
each
see
year.
why you associate with the Empire so well.
Oh, it's just got to make proper business decisions, Paul. It's just that's what it boils down to. It's I understand if you worked on the series, you'd like to see it out there, and there's some vague hope that someone might see it and revive it. But that's it's not going to happen. You've got to make decisions in a timely manner when it comes to these things. When something fails, you've got to hold your hands up and said, "This has been a failure."
Yeah, yeah.
And you see other things, like, for example, look at Indiana Jones trilogy, the original trilogy. Disney have to license that from Paramount. It only has a set value because Disney Plus will know how many people are watching that trilogy on the service to indicate how much they should spend to have it on their service. Paramount were clearly wanting too much. Paramount hold the license. So it's now on Amazon Prime here in the UK. So you've got Dial of Destiny on Disney Plus, and you've got the original trilogy on Amazon Prime. Now, nobody's coming out and saying it's a travesty that Indiana Jones isn't on Disney Plus.
Because
it's a business decision.
It hasn't got the following that Star Wars has.
Now, the argument then becomes, should Disney have offered Willow to a Netflix or an Amazon for them to hold? The same problem occurs if it's generating any kind of income, even if that's a small income, then you can't write off the loss.
Yeah. Just one last thing, Bri. Did you suspect that the Acolyte would suffer the same fate as the Willow series?
It's harder, I think, when it's part of a major franchise to be able to argue that it doesn't have an audience.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars clearly does have an audience. So you'd be in a bigger fight to be able to try and write that off. But you do see things like the Book of Boba Fett not getting a Blu-ray release is probably got to do with what kind of value they keep that in their accounts at. Because if it's generating an income, then it has to be kept in at a higher value than perhaps it's been written down over a shorter period of time. So they're probably doing the same with Acolyte, saying it's got a value, but it's got a short-lived value because it didn't find an audience. So it could get written off over the same period of time. So you may find that the Acolyte doesn't get a Blu-ray release.
Okay,
So
cool.
there's an element of, and this is where it gets a bit shady, I guess, is you get to control what the income streams are. And so if you want to devalue something, because you don't have to write it off completely, you can just lower the value of it. You could achieve that by just not giving it releases that would generate income. So if you don't give it a Blu-ray release, it's not got an income stream other than Disney Plus. And the argument is, if not many people are watching Disney Plus, watching repeats of the Acolyte and Disney Plus, then it's got a lower value than perhaps your next series like Andor, if it's getting lots of repeat views.
Yeah. Mm. Well, thanks for that.
Kevin making a comment there. There's so much about the travesty about what happened to Indiana Jones. One could do an entire show about it. You missed the start of the show, Kev. You could have been here. We're talking Indie and Disney Plus and Mr. Mangold's comments. Mr. Newball, Star Wars so big, so many eras, tough to choose where to plant their flag. Indie should be easy if they can get past it only being Garrison playing Indie. Well, we'll assume Mark's meaning Harrison.
Harrison's twin brother.
Here's Kevin asking the question. If you release it from Disney Plus, you do a small issue of it on Blu-ray, and that's that. Back in the Disney Vault, it goes forever, where some of these things should stay. That it becomes a little bit more tricky. You're then into probably having arguments with the taxman as to if you could do a small issue release and you're limiting it to 10,000 units and you sell all 10,000 units quick, then you've artificially devalued it. Because if you did it a more standard release, you could have sold more. So yeah, it's that. Whilst there's some logic to doing it in that way, it's you're into the elements of you can't clearly show something if it's still capable of generating sales and income and money. Yeah, as Chris Davis said, as Pike said, they must protect their margins, and that is literally that's literally what it boils down to. If you're on the Disney board, your job first and foremost is to the shareholders. You are not a creative decision maker. You're a business decision maker, and you could be jailed. In fact, if you fail in your legal duties to maximize shareholder value. So if you were deliberately leaving things on Disney Plus that were going to create losses for you, then you'd be failing in your duty as a director. Kevin, karma and Disney's never intentionally value or devalue things. Do you forget the VHS era? You could argue it all day long. It's just it's these instant decisions that you've got to make year on year, and you can go back and argue the effect of previous decisions and whether we're right or wrong all you want. But in the streaming service, when Disney have all the stats as to original views, first time views, repeat views, how many people in a household are watching it, they've got all the stats at their fingertips to use to justify the decisions that they make to the taxman now. So it's a different era altogether. Where VHS market, it's very difficult when Blockbuster rentals were a big part of it. So you could put a Disney movie out on rental. You would have no information as to whether it was incredibly successful in the rental market or not, because Blockbuster had that stats, not Disney. So
I don't think we've ever done anything this serious. It's scary.
No, it is serious. Start calling things a travesty. You're gonna get a serious reaction, Mr. Davis. But I feel sorry for him from the point of view that he's always got a lot of love for the character and proud of the work that they did in it, and he would like people had to have access to it. But I disagree with it. That's Disney making bad creative decisions. It's business decisions, and I'm afraid the series wouldn't exist and he wouldn't be paid if there wasn't people making business decisions.
Have there been any other shows on Disney Plus that have suffered the same fate?
Yes, many.
Yeah,
Yeah. Whether it's across all sort of brands, even National Geographic stuff,
yeah,
included in that. There's been movies, there's been TV series that all suffered the same fate.
right.
Some of them have been removed and sold elsewhere.
Yeah.
Um, some of them, like Willow, haven't. And a lot of it's going to boil down to how much money was put into these projects in the first place, to be honest. Some of them have got a potential to find an audience elsewhere, and the license fees that Disney can command for certain things makes sense for them to push it elsewhere. Other things that cost as much as the Willow TV series makes it much more logical. Like, let's just can this and archive it. Kev's making a huge comment here. He's really into this topic. The purchase of units, and where blockbuster might have been the biggest purchase of units overall was the consumer units sold or not sold that created the Disney Vault, an artificial creation designed entirely to create rarity. Yeah, but and the scale of the income of a TV series or movie, VHS was always a small element of it. It's I'm afraid it's not the big factor of the day. Back then, it was all about initial runs, and the money dropped off significantly for repeat runs on TV and film to a massive level. So, yeah, there is an element of Disney artificially creating a value, and it's very much the same with this Willow TV series. That removing it from Disney Plus artificially means that it can no longer generate an income anywhere. So thus it is devalued to zero. There's always that argument, but that's business, people, I'm afraid.
Mm.
So that is the very sad state of why programs are removed from Disney Plus, and why we can be upset from a creative standpoint about Willow. It's not, in my opinion, a travesty, Paul.
Can we have a happy Jabba's Court next time?
Can we? We'll see what
Yeah,
topic we can come up with.
yeah. Something
Um,
jolly.
yeah, one last comment on this. From Jonathan, he does think Amazon Prime are doing very well with their content. There's not many I've seen that have flopped with them. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Although I have real issues with the Amazon algorithm and how they present new content to us. I think sometimes they can release new content and the discoverability of it can be awful. But yeah, that's just me. And on that note, that's the end for this week's Jabba's Court. Obviously, you can find Jabba's Court as part of Good Morning Tatooine, live streamed every Sunday at 9 p.m. in the UK, 4 p.m. in New York, and released on Fantatrax TV every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Paul, back to the news. And
Back to the news indeed.
we
So,
have lots of news to still discuss. And next up, Furthest From, Fordingbridge.
Farthest From, yes. So, for those of you who aren't aware of what Farthest From is a small gathering of hardcore Star Wars fans in Fordingbridge, which I believe is in the New Forest. Is that
It
right?
is, yep.
Yeah. Last weekend there was Farthest From, and probably the greatest draw that weekend was Steve Evans, who, as well as being a lifelong fan of Star Wars and Star Wars toys, it has now got the enviable role of being design director for Star Wars and Marvel at Hasbro. By all accounts, he gave a fascinating talk, which I believe we have recorded and is available for people to log
Yep.
on to Fantasy and watch. But also, whilst there was the reveal of the next retro line, and that probably got more people excited across the UK and beyond regarding the fact that the next retro wave are figures from A New Hope, the only one that's previously been released being Walrus Man rather than Ponda Barber. And a lot of people have been asking, will he be in his original guise, blue arms and legs and an orange bodysuit, or will they go with a more screen accurate version? But then also you've got some really cool figures that have been missing from the line since the 70s and the 80s. So things like Han in Stormtrooper disguise, Luke in his Yavin costume, Sand Trooper, Rebel Fleet Trooper, and Dr. Evison filling out that line of 6 figures. So that's going to be something that as soon as they're available, people will be ordering those by the bucket load, because there's obviously an opportunity there to do some, troop building. That people will want more than one Sand Trooper, people want more than one Rebel Fleet Trooper. So yeah, exciting release.
Yep, check that video out on Panther Tracks TV. And if you really want to know where Fordingbridge is, it's near Salisbury. So that's a place where innocent Russian people like to visit to look at the steeples on cathedrals, I believe. Next up, Gift of Galaxy. We're talking Hasbro. If Kevin's still here, he'll be loving it. He loves his Hasbro product.
Sign it on the bubble. Come on, sign it on the bubble. Okay, so we've got some exciting figures here. From the Black Series, we've got things from Shadows of the Empire. So we've got Luke in disguise, and we've got another release of Leia in Bouche disguise, but I believe it's a better version than we've had previously. So that's exciting. And then from the Vintage Collection line, Bright, we have got from Heir to the Empire, and here are some figures from Shadows of the Empire.
There we go.
But that's cool. That is a nice set. But then from Heir to the Empire and the Thrawn trilogy, we've got Thrawn, we've got Joruus Sigboeth. I was never sure how to say that one, and Captain Paleon as well. So that's a real nice wave to be released. Obviously, we've got Thrawn in many guises already, but that will be the era that introduced Thrawn, and that will be certainly something that the collectors of the vintage line will be. They'll be all over that.
Next up in the news as well, we've got Jude Law getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Obviously, getting a lot of press at the moment due to his work on Skeleton Crew is Jordan Nanawood. Last Thursday, got a star, becoming the 2,798th star to adorn the landmark in Los Angeles. Joining Star Wars alumni like Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, Hugh McGregor, and Jon Favreau. And there you go, nice little images of him there with his star, kneeling on the red carpet there. Long overdue, Paul.
Yes, Bri. Yeah, excuse me. I'm trying to phone my wife to get my power lead for my PC that's about to get down.
Just you deal with that.
I was prepared, but we're live. So bear with me. You rattle on a bit about this, and I'll
rattle on a little bit about. I'll go to the next story. In fact, you carry on. You come back to me. We'll watch a little. We'll discuss a little bit of the Skeleton Crew whilst Paul goes and charges up his computer. The showrunners of Skeleton Crew have been discussing what's going to happen if there's going to be a second series. And obviously, you've got a ticking clock on the kids as they age, and there's been a number of years now passed since they actually filmed season 1. But they shouldn't be too worried, because if they do have a season 2, they are planning to bring in a bit of a time jump to accommodate the age of the kids increasing. So it's built in and factored in to the story. Mr. Newbold, we are professional, absolutely professional. And this is why we do love live TV. So that's season 2. Things are in hand. Obviously, we're right back in the middle of season 1 at the moment, and we've got...
couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
Yeah, you couldn't agree more, Paul. We've got an official clip we can check out whilst we're charging up our devices. And let's check out this clip from episode 3 before we debate it.
Crimson Jack, land this ship immediately.
We have to get to the other side of this moon to make the jump.
Other side? We'll never make it that far.
Once we see daylight, we're gone. Neil, I need you to take the controls and evade their fire.
Neil? Neil? I can't fly a ship.
Like this. Just wiggle the controls a little. Evade. You. With me.
I'm the captain. You work for us. Why is Neil even flying the ship? Why can't I fly?
head in. Come on, Captain. Grab this, turn this, fire here. Just keep them back. Let's go.
Oh. I got him! That's my shot!
Hey, B!
A little further.
Hands off. Let me know when we're ready to jump.
Okay. Almost there. I can't see anything! No, I can't either. Almost there. We're clear.
That, Paul, was a little clip from episode 3 of Skeleton Crew. Currently on
stuff.
Disney Plus, where when content's removed, things are a travesty. Uh, I'm going to jump in here with just a comment. We're going to discuss it a little bit. Phil Parker made a comment during that clip about the use of the name Crimson Jack. Older fans like him relate to the original comic line. I agree completely with that. It's like, are you trying to say that Jordan Wood is actually Crimson Jack? Is Crimson Jack really real? And Jordan Wood is just using his name to get him in trouble for certain things? Or have you just eliminated the guy from canon completely?
I think it's probably the fact that he probably met him when he was a youngster, and that it's just a name that he's collected along the way as one of his many aliases.
Yeah, as exactly as Paul says, he's a bit of a water character.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. But
Yeah.
should we discuss it in much more detail?
Yeah.
Let's
Now we've
go
got
on. Let's go on a bon voyage.
Bon voyage.
Bon voyage, Paul.
Bon
Welcome
voyage to you too, Brian. Bon
welcome
voyage.
to episode 3's review of Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus. Interesting week, would you say, for the series?
I enjoy it. Yeah, to me, there's not been a weak episode yet. I've really enjoyed it so far. What I took from this episode and what I've put into a review in writing that I've sent into Fanta Tracks is just how many links there are back to previous Star Wars episodes, particularly in this episode. You got all sorts of nods to Obi-Wan Kenobi deactivating the tractor beam. You've got that with Jod distracting the two jailers when they're breaking out of the jail. There's droids in there that we haven't seen for a while. It feels like Star Wars, and that's what a Star Wars show should feel like. And that's where I always struggled with the Acolyte.
Yeah. Let's kick off then and have a little look at some screen grabs I've taken from the episodes as we chat about it. It's got some kind of context. And we started off on Atatin, which was kind of our first clear look at the wider city that all these kids are growing up in. We've kind of had a journey through the streets, but this is kind of like an overview. And it's very much feels a little bit like a more elegant old school Coruscant with the types of towers and buildings and structures, and I'm going to presume that's some kind of government building on the horizon there.
It's the most Earth-like planet that we've had, really, isn't it? And I think that's what a few people are struggling with, but I think that's done on purpose. It's meant to make it more relatable, particularly with the kids as well. I've got no issues with that. I think it's quite cool.
Jonathan's only seen the episode 1 of Skeleton Crew so far. It's not clicking for him. Mr. Newbold doesn't think we know the name of the character Jude Law is playing as yet. And Phil Parker, he's convinced that the whole plot's going to end up being whether Jude Law's character decides to be a bad guy or goes after the kids to find the lost planet and the treasure that Atten is reportedly supposed to hold. Now, we didn't speak about this in our review in the first 2 episodes, but there was an interesting mural in Fern's house wall that has callbacks to various things from Star Wars cartoons. It kind of feels like when they've had these kind of murals, and it was kind of seen in Ahsoka. And it basically has all the aliens, as in whatever alien Neil's family are, in it as well, along with the humanoid characters as well. Some kind of classic scene. So something's happened to form this world. It feels like there's more to Atatin than we realise. And obviously the parents of the kids have all gathered because their kids are missing. Apart from Neil's dad. Neil's dad didn't care. He didn't turn up.
He's looking after the little ones.
No.
They're currently watching the holiday special.
Yeah, Boba Fett cartoon.
It's funny.
And the droid just barges straight into the house, doesn't knock or anything, doesn't ring a doorbell, just walks straight in, and that's deemed to be normal. And basically tells them that the supervisor is not going to provide any kind of help because they've gone beyond the barrier, so tough luck. And that's the evil droid, the security droid. I've got the feeling that we're going to find out that the supervisor's a droid himself.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big sort of MacGuffin in this is all about why the planet has got this barrier around it.
Yeah.
It's as much about not letting people off the planet as it is letting people in, I suspect.
Yeah. It's a bad protocol droid, says Mr. Well, all droids are bad, but obviously, if a droid just walked into my house, telling you. But yeah, it's very much a Wizard of Oz. Who is the supervisor? Why does he never get named other than the supervisor? Why can nobody seem to meet with him? Why does he make these decisions? Anything beyond the barrier, and there's no contacts, nothing. Why have they cut themselves off? And we pretty much learn that they've been cut off pretty much since Republic times. So they've never known the love and embrace of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, or the wonderful life they could have lived underneath the peaceful democratic rule of the First Galactic Empire. But
I'm sure they'll get further opportunities. He likes to make it, a return appearance every now and
then. There's a great point from Phil. The father could be Wilbur Hood, and the planet has been there with him, like the ice cream maker. So he ended up after best friend.
That's brilliant. Yeah, he does feature him, doesn't he? Yeah.
It definitely appears that they've cut themselves off, and they've been cut off for more than a generation, at least. The droids are kind of sinisterly in control a little bit. They pop up everywhere.
Yeah.
And the one thing that hasn't been speculated on by anyone, I don't think, was nobody told Wim's dad that he'd gone out to the woods, or specifically gone to this place where that ship was. But immediately, that's where Wim's dad headed.
Probably got a tracker on him, hasn't he?
Almost as if he knew that was there, and that's where he could be.
He got a tracker. It's a simple device on his mobile phone. Definitely.
Don't know. I'm suspicious. Anyway, the kids are breaking out of prison over on the pirate planet, and we get a little bit of force ability exhibited by John Daniel Wood, which we'll keep calling him as we don't know his real name. As he sort of masterminds their escape. We still don't know if he's a Jedi. I don't think he's a Jedi. I think he's someone with force abilities.
I think he's a Jedi.
Yeah. There's also a comment placed in this scene about KB having Jedi abilities because she became aware there was a droid coming around the corner. And I'm going to come back to that later in this review because I think it's important. But anyway, they escape despite Neil doing his best attempts to make them get captured, and they head back in one of that little I don't know what you call it, shuttlecraft back
Yeah.
to the Onyx Cinder. Despite Neil being irritating his irritating self. And they get back on board and they cause a bit of fuss about the fact that they've left the droid behind. Would you go back for a droid, Paul?
I know somebody who wouldn't.
Yeah. But yeah, so poor Jod is forced into going back for the droid by them asking him uncomfortable questions about Jedi principles and what a Jedi would do. And he buckles under their pressure. And he heads back. And he finds SM-33. But he kind of gets caught rescuing the droid by one of his old crewmates, who refers to him as Captain... Is it Captain Siloko? I forget his name.
Silvo, isn't it? Yeah.
Silvo, Captain Silvo. Which you weren't convinced it was Jude Law.
yeah. I've not even picked up on that. That's ridiculous. Yeah.
So it's confirmed now. That's an interesting one. I hadn't heard this one. Chris Davids heard fans that they're children of younglings that escaped the Jedi Temple. Very possible. That's quite an interesting one.
Yeah, that's cool.
I will come back to that comment, Chris, later in the show. So he escapes with SM-33, and they're all kicking their feet, waiting for him to come back. He comes back with a droid, and he helps them escape the planet, which includes them getting free from the fuel line that's kind of tying them down. And after that, we get our first sort of real interaction between Jod and SM-33, who's not happy with a stowaway on board, Paul. Do you think they're familiar with each other?
Well, I was going to say, when they were first approaching the Onyx, the look on Jude Law's face seemed to infer that he recognised the ship.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling that he's had many an adventure with SM-33, and that the droid's probably had its memory erased somewhere along the line.
Or he just had the helmet on, he never recognised the voice.
That's all right. But yeah, I'm pretty convinced that that's going to be part of the story at some point.
Okay, Nick Frost thinks they are. Okay, so Jod makes some food. Neil gets hungry. So he gives the kids some food because he's a nice guy. And whilst they're eating, he goes a little bit of exploring. And he has a very interesting scene, I thought, with SM-33, where SM pretty much says, "I don't like you," and he says, "I don't like you either."
But there's also some repetitive wording from SM-33 that makes it look like he's slightly malfunctioning.
Can't say I know an Atatin. That's what SM-33 said as well. Neil makes friends with a rat. These are important plot points. It sums up the kind of person Neil is. And the kids start to realise everyone's reacting to what they consider to be dinner money. And everybody thinks it's a lot of money. So they start realising maybe there is something about their planet and it's maybe not so normal. And it's interesting. What is Atatin's secret?
It'll turn out that Jod's real purpose is as a bureau de change, and it's just basically a currency exchange rate that's really good outside of Atatin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kids go to sleep, as all good kids should do. Apart from KB, who's got her eyes on Jod. She doesn't
Yeah.
trust him. And Jod pretty much confronts her on that. And this then leads to them flying away. So they fly away to this new planet where Jod's so-called friend is supposed to be. And as soon as they arrive at that planet, we get this moment where KB becomes wide awake. Now, my working theory now is that KB is force sensitive. So back on the planet when she saw the droid coming, it was because she was exhibiting the force sensitivity in the same way that Jordan and Naru does. When they arrive on the planet, she becomes wide awake because she's got the same force sensitivity as Jordan and Naru has. Her parents referred to her having a disease or an illness. Is it the fact that they're hiding the fact that she's got the force?
I suspect it might be more to do with the headgear that she's wearing.
Well, I started thinking, is the headgear there as some way to counteract and explain her certain strange behaviours or unknown knowledge? Oh, it's just this gadget on her head that's helping her out rather than her.
I thought that might explain how she could sense the droid around the corner, and how she woke up when the ship had landed, almost like the equivalent of like a Samsung mobile phone in the future kind of thing, or the past.
I just think the fact that her and Jod are butting heads, I think there's more to it. And I think this might be, as Chris suggested, the fan theory that they could all be younglings. Maybe this is a planet hidden away because they're Jedi.
Yeah, I quite like that.
Quite like that idea. And this is them just starting to exhibit some of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be quite a nice plot twist.
Yeah. So they end up on some astronomical moon. I don't think it gets named, but anyway. Basically, they're on a stage with the volume is basically where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he takes them to see his friend Kim, who refers to him as being Crimson Jack, the space pirate from 1970s Star Wars comics.
Star Wars Weekly.
Yeah. And is that just another alias for him? Is Walter Mitty personality as Phil described him?
Yeah, I think he's got a bag full of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an interesting callback, but also I kind of felt it devalues the character of Crimson Jack as well, which I kind of loved. But yeah, well, we'll see how it plays out. But then they go into this astronomical building, a telescope, basically.
It's an observatory, isn't it?
Yeah. It's that calculates the star maps, which I would kind of think is quite a clever thing to have in Star Wars. It should have something like this. Yeah. And we get to meet our new character, Kim. A feckin' owl. It's the only way to describe it. An owl with whiskers. Whoever designed this should be ashamed. That's not a Star Wars alien.
I know what you mean.
That's just laziness, that is. Someone said, you know who would be good at being in charge of the observatory? An owl.
Yeah. Oh, we need somebody wise. Oh, a wise owl. Yeah.
Do you know when I saw this? Do you remember the kids' program, The Fimbles, with Roly Mole?
Well, I thought
Google it. Google Roly Mole. Don't blame me if something weird comes up because Google. But
I thought of Clash of the Titans and
just horrible. Anyway, it was a really good scene. Look of the alien beside, and she starts interrogating the kids and asking the kids questions about life on Atata, and so she can try and narrow it down where they are.
Yeah.
So Wit2 says it's not an alien. Yeah, so they start narrowing it down, which to me is illogical because that means it's on a star map. So it's not a lost planet. It's just a planet that nobody's bothered going to.
because it's so boring.
Yeah, there's Kevin suggesting it could have been a bipedal rabbit creature in any other colour but green. That's very true. But basically, in this episode, we've had a rat, an elephant, and an owl. I think the standards here are alien creations poor. But she starts talking about Atin being one of the lost Old Republic worlds, which was interesting, I thought.
Is that something that's come up in Star Wars lore in the past?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No, not me. Yeah, it's quite a nice idea, though.
Yeah. And the owl then notices on the backpack of Fern her class prefect badge, having symbols that apparently are of some significance.
Yeah, Atari.
Yeah. Chris is asking a great question here. Let's see if we can. Let's. Well, we're gonna have to hide the ticker bar because it's too long. Here we go. Let's bring it back up. Here we go. Right. If they're still living in the Republic and they have no knowledge of what's happened to outside since their planet currently is all Republic, isn't it? So it could be a bank for the secret projects of Cypher Dias. Is he bankrolling Imperial projects in the First Order? Something like that has to be. They're completely unaware of the Empire. They're completely unaware of Palpatine and the wonders of his government. It appears that they've cut them for some reason in the Old Republic, so pre-Galactic Empire. They decided to cut themselves off completely, hide themselves from the rest of the galaxy. Why is the big question. Was it because they foresaw what was coming with Palpatine? And that's this theory that they could all be Jedi younglings?
I think it could even be that all the treasures of the Empire are hidden on their planet, on Atatin, much the same way as all the sort of like the data was hidden in Rogue One on that one specific planet, which eludes me at the moment. But you know, it could be that that basically Atatin is being used as some sort of vault.
Yeah. The kids make an interesting question. They all know that their parents work for the great work and they all analysts or coordinators or what, but none of them know what they're analysing or coordinating.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting as well that the kids didn't know that Alderaan had been destroyed.
Yeah. Kevin saying a rat, an elephant, and I'll go into a Disney Plus series. So yeah, using that information, she enters it in the computer and she gets coordinates, but she tries stalling because secretly she's phoned for the New Republic to come and arrest Crimson Jack.
That's what it was, right?
But Jordan Wood kind of realizes what she's up to, so he takes the data stick with the coordinates and goes to Scarper. Kim, the owl, then has an interesting conversation with KB about if she's ever in trouble, she can come and speak to her, kind of thing. Which again comes back to KB's got a secret. KB's a Jedi. Doesn't know she's a Jedi. She's got talent, I think.
Yeah.
Something going on there. They go back to their ship. I've included this just because Neil does a fake roll down the hill for attention. Had enough of that kid. Meanwhile, the New Republic are on their way. Jod gets into kind of a confrontation between SM-33 and the kids as to whether he's lying about being a Jedi and what his intentions are. But they basically come to a deal where he's going to help them escape back to their planet and potentially get a reward and go on his way. We'll see what happens there. Then next up, the two kids, Wim and Fern, take the guns and start shooting at the New Republic because they're bloodthirsty. Atatans want to destroy the New Republic.
That was quite a cute scene, though. The look on Wim's
Look
face.
at the happiness on Fern's face at killing people.
Well, yeah, I mean, she looks happy there, but when Wim gets offered his gun seat, brilliant. Yeah.
Phil calling them the two worst pilots in the Republic. Yeah, definitely took their shooting skills from stormtroopers. They, Kevin, I don't like little people, kids, droids. The list keeps on growing. It does. We'll add Big Kev to it as well. KB gets her first big scene of success, I would say, in the series, and that she's in charge of running the hyperspace coordinates and getting them ready to escape. And Jod hits hyperspace. They're going to Artatin, and the owl who's reported them to the New Republic. And she tells the New Republic, "You won't believe where they're going." She just dubbed them in. So are the New Republic going to end up at Artatin as well? Presumably, even though he's taken the data stick, she's still got the ability to recover it and give them the same coordinates. So,
Yeah.
don't know.
I
Interesting.
mean, it was hinted at that she wasn't going to give him the true answer to the search as well. So it might be that they're close by, but not actually sent to Atatin.
Yeah.
Looking
So what was
forward
your
to that.
thoughts on the episode?
I liked it. Yeah, I thought it was really good. Watched it a couple of times. To me, it just feels more Star Wars-y than some of the things that we've had recently. I thought season 3 of Mando was a patchy mess. And whilst they tried to throw in the odd battle droid here and there and Zeb and different things, and finally gave some decent thing for Grogu to do in the IG-88. Well, IG-12, not IG-88. That was all very cool, but generally it was a mess. Whereas this is flowing quite nicely so far. And the fact that they're already talking about potentially a season 2 just goes to show you how well received it's been. I've not seen much negativity about it at all.
Initially, I couldn't give a hoot, but it's growing on me.
I'm suspecting there's a Kim Parker somewhere. A patchy mess.
It was an interesting episode. It's kind of moved it in a direction I wasn't necessarily expecting by bringing in the New Republic into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Excuse me, what are you going? I've had a long day. You're getting boring now, Paul.
Sorry, Brian.
It's interesting to me they've brought the New Republic in, whether they're going to continue that or whether they're just going to keep it Jod Pirates.
Yeah, I think that more than anything, that's probably to connect it to all the other things that have happened in the so-called Mandoverse. All the different properties that I was surprised that it wasn't. Is the Chinese pilot that the Asian pilot that we've had?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't him. But I think it's all designed to pull it all together. There's going to be elements from this, no doubt, that turn up in the Mando and Grogu film. I don't know, but no, I think it's really enjoyable. It does feel like it's something that could have been
Carson Teva.
You what? Sorry,
Carson Teva was the name
That's
of the.
it. Absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
Name of the X-wing pilot.
But yeah, I think that this has got all the sort of all the qualities to it that it could have actually been happening alongside all these other things at the same time. So yeah, I think it's good.
The interesting thing for me is it's evolved massively, and exactly how the showrunners said it would be. It's not a kids' film. It's not a kids' TV series. You kind of forgotten by episode 3 that this is kids.
Yeah.
It's just a good Star Wars story.
Yeah, I mean they're obviously still very pivotal to what's going to happen, but Jod, or whatever you want to call him, Crimson, whatever, he was more than happy to say that they were in charge on the ship. As soon as you get on the ship, he's the one that's giving all the orders. You two get in the guns. You get on the hyperdrive. You fly the ship. He's the one that's taking control. So he doesn't care what he said. He will go ahead and captain the ship. So it's very much becoming the Jod, Captain Silvo, Crimson Jack show, which is what it should always be anyway. The kids are almost secondary, but I have to say I am impressed with the kids because they're not cutesy, they're not jarring, they're good.
Apart from Neil.
Apart from Neil, you try and get a blue elephant to act, right? It's not easy.
Don't have a blue elephant or an owl or a rat. Yeah. On that bombshell. That's the week's Bon Voyage done, I think. We'll be back.
We'll say Bon Voyage to Bon Voyage.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. Hopefully they'll be on Atata and we might find a little bit more about what's going on there.
Something dodgy.
Yeah. And of course, Bon Voyage is part of Good Morning Tatooine, your weekly recap of all the latest Star Wars news, live streaming every Sunday at 9 p.m. in the UK, 4 p.m. in New York, and released as its own video on Fat Tracks TV every Monday at 7 p.m. Back to the remainder of the show, Paul. We're almost there. It's almost time to say goodbye, but let's just plug some Star Wars things, Father Tracks things before we go. Obviously, up first, FanthaTracks.com. Every day you can go there and get all your Star Wars news in a single file. Everything from TV, film collection, fashion, gaming, literature, music and art, with interviews, event coverage, podcasts and reviews.
Yeah, don't forget to go and have a look at that and see the Steve Evans content and Farthest From. All fascinating stuff. We've got social media coming out of our ears. We've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, we've got Threads, we've got what was Twitter and is now X, and we've got TikTok, and we've got others amongst those.
And as well as that, we've got Father Tracks Radio. Keep a search out for Father Tracks Radio on your podcatcher of choice. We've got Making Tracks 212 on Tuesday, Planet Leia 23 on Friday, and of course you'll have the Skeleton Crew Reaction Crew episode 4 on Wednesday as well. Not as good as Bon Voyage, but it's a good second. It's a good second.
And Start Your Engines, we had a new episode release on Friday all about the Y-Wing.
Oh, excellent. And lastly but not least, check out Father Tracks TV. You're watching it now, so why not check out some more? Lots of content going up over the next few weeks on there, so check that out. And Star Wars gaming really, really soon.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, Paul. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that is this week's show. It's been a big show. It's gone on a lot longer than I thought.
You need to get to bed. I need to go and do some work.
I'm exhausted. And it's just the start of the worst week of the year for me.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah.
Christmas people, I hate yous all. Bah humbug.
He means it.
And on that note, as I tell the entire watching audience that I hate them, it's time to end the show and ask you, please come back next week. So it's a good night from me.
And it's a good night from him. Good night.
Good night.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at FanthaTracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Fantha Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.